Hello, class and Professor Reed. My name is Justin Vokes, and my presentation was a volunteering project. I spent 5 hours a whole evening volunteering for hunger, homelessness, and poverty awareness, pretty much, at an organization called the Feast of God. Um, Essentially, I did my service learning project. Um, Focusing on that area, and I volunteered at St. John's Church on Tyson and Roland Avenue under the organization called Feast of God. What it involved specifically was myself, along with other volunteers, organizing the food shelter inside of the church and stocking all of the shelf areas with food and drinks, meals, meats, produce, etc. Um, Then later, after everything was set up, we accompanied families through the simulated grocery store aisles and pretty much explained to them how much of each food and drink and such they were allowed to take based off of their household living size or the number of people they cared for or were responsible for. Um, in other words, like if you were only responsible for yourself, you were signed maybe a card when you signed um, in the waiting area that was, for example, blue if you were only yourself. And that would signify that you were only responsible for one person and you would therefore get X amount of food. Maybe you could take one meal from the meat area, maybe like one or like several cans of soup, one box of cereal from a cereal area, and basically each area, whether it be like cereal, canned food, boxed like macaroni, pasta, rice, where you were assigned so many points to take from such area. Um, and basically, you had more points depending on how many people you had in your family or how many you were responsible for. And that's how they kept track, or that's how we kept track of basically all of the stock and making sure that everyone got the correct amount that they needed for the week. The amount of food and water and drinks and meals that they needed for the week, based on their family size. And then we would check them out with us and measure basically and record how much food that they left with. And that was recorded and kept in the journal that was kept by the organization Feast of God. The social issue addressed was hunger, homelessness, and poverty, which related to what we learned about with class inequality and the inequality system and global inequalities and financial inequalities, and how it's basically such a serious problem that affects so many people and is pretty much, it creates this domino effect that hurts people through, homelessness and other examples like hunger, malnutrition, even child hunger, like we watched that video on. And we saw that in class, and just like all the things that the inequality of classes actually affects people in like all these different ways. This project really opened my eyes to these issues, and pretty much how like even people who have good jobs can be affected by the economic gap and those inequalities, and it can cause them to suffer from issues such as poverty and all of the effects that encompass that, and how that can really happen to anyone at any time. There's not really like a safety net like we talked about to stop it. Sociologically, it really made me understand that there should be a better safety net and more organizations like this one to help people, because yes, we provided enough for like a week's worth of sustenance for the 49 families that we helped, but they might not have access to other similar organizations until like maybe a month later, because like the Feast of God's only there once a month. Also, it takes so long to actually serve everyone. So some families were waiting like hours before we could actually help them, just because of the lack of hands and facilities. So it pretty much like really just opened my eyes to the whole global and communal issues of poverty, We specifically helped provide food and drinks to people throughout the evening, but also friendly conversations as well were had by myself and others. To the best of our abilities, we met their individual needs based on their family size or how many people they were responsible for feeding, with enough food and drinks while remaining fair to everyone and not running out of food for the organization. Um, Most importantly, what I learned was that people of all different backgrounds and diversities are the same in the sense that they're literally just doing everything that they can to get by and survive while being affected by poverty and hunger, homelessness, and this gap of inequalities by our system. Um, and that really, like, nobody is safe from these issues. This has affected me in the sense that I don't really see myself ever being able to, not that I would before, but ever really being able to judge somebody for being homeless or, being under the poverty line or needing help by any similar services, such as like homeless shelters or clothing drives or food drives, etc. Um, like I said, not that like I would be a judgmental person towards that before, but it's just like it opened my eyes to how real the inequality is and how diversely affecting it reigns. I wouldn't see myself for it to ever really be possible for myself, and to judge anybody for any of those reasons. And I would strongly encourage others, like I'm sure many others have helped out with this service learning project. I would strongly encourage others to help out and like spend their time volunteering, where and when they can, with similar facilities, because it was a genuinely pleasant experience, and I met some really nice people doing it while gaining a sense of both enlightenment and fulfillment from helping others, and just like more understanding and the whole um, situation of inequality that goes on in our country and elsewhere as well. Um, so yeah, I would definitely recommend helping where you can, and yeah, it was a beneficial experience. Um, I've got pictures and everything that I'll share, but that'll happen in class because that is where I'm at currently. So yeah, I'll show you guys that and basically tell you um, about specific examples and such. All right,